do to have the kind of faith it takes to climb out of this boat I'm in onto the crashing waves, to step out of my comfort zone into the realm of the unknown where Jesus is, and he's holding out his hand. But the waves are calling out my name and they laugh at me, reminding me of all the times I've tried before and failed. The waves, they keep on telling me time and time again, boy, you'll never win. You'll never win. But the voice of truth tells me a different story. The voice of truth says do not be afraid. The voice of truth says this is for my glory. Out of all the voices calling out to me, I will choose to listen and believe the voice of truth. Oh, what I would do to have the kind of strength it takes to stand before a giant with just a sling and a stone, surrounded by the sound of 1,000 warriors shaking in their armor, wishing they had had the strength to change. But the giant's calling out my name and he laughs at me, reminding me of all the times I've tried before and failed. Oh, the giant keeps on telling me time and time again, boy, you'll never win. You'll never win. Oh, but the voice of truth tells me a different story. The voice of truth says do not be afraid. And the voice of truth says this is for my glory. Out of all the voices calling out to me, I will choose and listen to believe the voice of truth. The stone was just the right size to put that giant on the ground, and the waves, they don't seem so high from the top of them looking down. I will soar with the wings of eagles when I stop and listen to the sound of Jesus singing over me. The voice of truth tells me a different story. The voice of truth says do not be afraid. The voice of truth says this is for my glory. Out of all the voices calling out to me, I will choose and listen to believe. I will choose and listen to believe the voice of truth. I will listen and believe. I will listen and believe the voice of truth. Oh, I will listen and believe, 'cause Jesus, you are the voice of truth. I will listen to you. You are the voice of truth. Well, thank you. It's so great to see all of you today. Welcome to all of you who are here. Welcome to all of you who are watching online. We're going to do another song for you, and we invite you all to get involved with this one. Clap if you want. For sure, sing. The words will be on the screen. Katie's going to lead us in Never Gonna Stop Singing.
You reached out to save us. You conquered the grave, you crossed the divide. Lost in our sin, you made us alive. How can we ever hold it inside? We can't hold back. We're gonna lift you higher, higher. Hearts burning bright like a fire, fire. Voices unite, make it louder, louder. Never gonna stop singing. Ooh, never gonna stop singing. Set free, no longer bound in chains. You rescued me and called me by name. You conquered the grave, you crossed the divide. Lost in our sin, you made us alive. How can we ever hold it inside? We can't hold back.
Here we go now.
We're gonna lift you higher, higher. Hearts burning bright like a fire, fire. Voices unite, make it louder, louder. Never gonna stop singing. Ooh, never gonna stop. Higher, higher. Hearts burning bright like a fire, fire. Voices unite, make it louder, louder. Never gonna stop singing. Ooh, never gonna stop singing. Every tribe, every tongue, every heart will sing. Every knee we will bow to the risen King. Lift him up, never gonna stop singing.
Every tribe.
Ooh, never gonna stop. Every tribe, every tongue, every heart will sing. Every knee we will bow to the risen King. Lift him up, never gonna stop singing.
One more time now. Here we go.
Higher, higher. Hearts burning bright like a fire, fire. Voices unite, make it louder, louder. Never gonna stop singing. Ooh, never gonna stop. Higher, higher. Hearts burning bright like a fire, fire. Voices unite, make it louder, louder. Never gonna stop singing. Ooh, never gonna stop singing.
Great job singing. I invite you to have a seat. Well, good afternoon. Welcome to our annual celebration. I know this looks a lot different than it normally does, but because of COVID and everything going on, we are pulling it off to a grand way of doing it by going live online. So we're glad and thankful for all of you that are watching us right now on our website, and for all the council members, both past and present, that are here with us today as we run this meeting and share the joy of all God has done here at Bethel through you. I'm here just to let you know a little thing that's going on, and that is our voting. And now, since not everyone can come and be with us for voting, we do have it that you can vote online. So as you're watching right now, if you're looking at your screen, it will be on the right side. There's a place that you can click that's a Survey Monkey. And this is nice, quick, and easy. I did vote myself, and I will not vote again. Hear me true, I say that. Literally, you'll click that link, and it's going to pop up a screen. It doesn't ask for your name or anything, and all you will do is vote yes or no on the individual candidates' names for council, and then on our budget. And then once you've done that, you push submit, and you're done. You're free. Now, if you're finding an issue with that, it's not working or that's not your thing, you can call in. Right now on our screen, we have 4 different numbers up here. We have a phone booth of waiting, excited people. I can see them in the background. They're dancing. They're ready for your phone calls. And that way you just call in and you just cast your vote and just tell them, and they'll mark it down. And then we will tally all those that are here in person, those that are at our voting bank, and those that are submitting it by SurveyMonkey. And we'll collect those for the tally. So we thank you for your patience. We thank you for coming and being a part of this service. And so I'm going to now hand it over to our Mr. President, Ian Isaacson.
Thank you, Lad. Thank you, New Song. Welcome again to our 2021 annual celebration. We're here to celebrate 2020. And in fact, 2020 was a little bit different year than we're used to here at Bethel, and hoping that 2021 looks a lot better. Our annual meeting looks a little bit different this year than it has in the past. So again, please follow along and make sure you cast your ballot, whether it be through the survey online or by calling into the phone bank. I'm going to call our meeting to order with a motion to call our meeting to order. Karen, with the motion, with the second, any comments? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. We are officially in order. I'm going to ask Pastor John to come up for an opening devotional.
Thank you, Ian. And again, I want to thank you for being here, the crew, the presenters, the council, but I also want to thank those of you that are tuning in, live streaming. So important to have you with us. And you're going to hear, we went through 250 of the celebration gift bags, and hopefully that's a really good sign that we've got a number of people that are engaged here today. But friends, for the opening devotion, I would share a scripture with you. I'm not going to read it, though. I'm going to hope that this is something you're familiar with, and if not, I hope you'll take a look at it. This comes from the Gospel of Mark. It's chapter 2, verses 1 to 12. And hopefully this will set the stage for our whole celebration today. But it seems that in the town of Capernaum, there were 4 men that had a buddy. Their buddy was paralyzed. He'd been laying on a bed, never able to stand up or walk his entire life. And so one day, these 4 men in Capernaum heard about Jesus Christ. They heard that Jesus was a teacher, that he was a prophet, and they heard that he was a healer. And you can be sure when they heard healer, their ears pricked up, and they thought of their friend, we're going to call him Charlie. Well, they thought of their friend Charlie, and they thought, if we could just get Charlie in to see this healer, in to see Jesus, I bet he'd be able to walk. And so those 4 industrious men put their friend on a pallet and off they went. They had heard that Jesus was going to be visiting someone's house in the neighborhood. What they didn't bargain for was the fact that when they got there, pretty much the entire town of Capernaum had surrounded that house. So they had hoped to maybe take him in the front door and get him right in front of Jesus, but that was not about to happen because of the crowds. And even as they tried to push and shove their way through, nobody was giving up their spot. So they couldn't get in the front door, so they went around to the side door, and that too was packed. Couldn't muscle their way through. They went to the back door, and then once it was obvious the doors were not going to be open, then they thought, well, a window. We'll try a window. So they tried a window here and there, but still again, there was just too many people to get their friend in. Well, these were determined men. They were not about to go home empty-handed and disappoint their friend Charlie. And so one of them must have said, well, if we can't get in the door, if we can't get in the window, let's try the roof. And you can be sure there at least a few of them said, the roof? What do you mean the roof, the roof. And so up they went with Charlie on the pallet, and they must have tried to gauge where Jesus was underneath them, underneath the roof and the ceiling. But the next thing you know is Jesus is probably teaching or preaching inside the living room of that home. The next thing you know is there's dust coming from the ceiling. And these crazy guys are beginning to take the ceiling tiles off. And you can be sure if the homeowner was there that day, he's looking up thinking, what are you doing? You're destroying my home. I can't help but believe, though, Jesus maybe smiled just a little bit of thinking, now there are some determined guys. There are some people with faith, real faith. And the next thing you know, here came Charlie down on his stretcher, on ropes right in front of Jesus. And if you know this story, you know the very first words out of Jesus' mouth were, "My son, your sins are forgiven." Now you can imagine those four men that are looking down through the hole are saying, "Psst, Jesus, not his sins. How much sin can a paralyzed man have? Jesus, his legs, heal his legs." Well, Jesus knew that there were people in the crowd there that day that were wondering, who is this guy that thinks he can forgive sins? And so to answer them, he said to the crowd, do you think it's easier for me to say, your sins are forgiven, or get up, pick up your bed and walk? And so with that, he looked Charlie in the eye and said, my son, pick up your bed and walk. And you know the story. That's exactly what Charlie did there that day. For the first time in his life, he stood on his own 2 feet, on his own 2 legs. Not only that, did he walk away, but he picked up his bed and took it with him. And if you know the story out of Mark, it says that the people were in awe. They have never seen anything like this before. Friends, think about this story with me for just a second, if you will. Number one, this is a great testimony to the healing power of Jesus Christ. It's a great testimony to the fact that when Jesus meets any human being, man, woman, or child, things change. There's transformation that takes place. But think with me too. It's also a great testimony to those 4 men, those 4 determined men that would not take no for an answer. They were going to get their friend, no matter what it took, in to see Jesus, even if it meant taking the roof apart to get him in there. I want to suggest to you, this really is an illustration of the church. I don't just mean our church here at Bethel. I mean, hopefully, all churches in our country, hopefully in our world. You know that 10 months ago, things changed markedly for all of us. We could no longer open the doors and bring people in to hear about Jesus, and so we began doing the unconventional. We began taking the message out there where people were. If we couldn't get them through the door or the window, go to the roof. And that's what we've done. We've gone to the unconventional way to share ministry. We're going to talk more about this in just a few minutes. And you ask, well, what are the unconventional ways? Well, we're doing one of those right now with a live stream. We do those every time we do a radio broadcast for people that can't be present. We do it as we broadcast on Channel 15 on public television. But you're going to hear our congregation has really grown this year. Nobody looked forward to a pandemic. Everybody wants to be back live in person, but can you believe it? Our numbers in worship have gone up 3 times the number of what they normally are. Why? Because we took the roof off. We did something unconventional, and God has blessed that. God has used that. In closing, let me just say this. I hope that you and I will be the kinds of Christians. I hope that we will be the kind of church that even when this pandemic is long behind us, we are still thinking about whatever it takes to get our friends in to meet Jesus. We're willing to take roofs off. We're willing to do the unconventional, but we are determined people of faith. I hope that's who we are. Let's close with a prayer. Gracious God, on this day, we thank you again for the great, great testimony that we read again and again in the Bible. We thank you for these exemplary men, these 4 people of determination and faith. God, we would ask that you would make us like them in our approach to ministry, in getting the word about you out to the world, no matter who it is, no matter where they are, no matter what their situation would be. But God, most of all, we thank you for your healing power, your transforming power that continues to shape us and mold us into the people, into the believers, the disciples that you would have us be. These things we ask and pray on this day, and let all the people of God, both here in the room and also those there live streaming, say, amen. All right, thank you.
Thank you for those words, Pastor John. We're going to hop into our agenda for our meeting, and I'm going to make a motion to appoint our parliamentarian, Karen Holt. Do I have a second? Second by Jeff Mackey. Any comments? All in favor, say aye. All opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. Thank you, Karen, for serving today. Next item on the agenda here is to appoint a head teller. I'm in a motion for Marcy Andrews to be our head teller. Second from Tracy.
I'll second. She moved, I'll second.
Yep.
So all those in favor of appointing appointing Marcy as the head teller, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you.
I'd also like to move to approve our minutes from our 2020 annual meeting, which are on page 3 of the annual report.
Is there a second? Great. So Jill seconds the motion to approve the minutes. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it. Motion carries.
We're going to carry on with more business in a few moments. But for now, I'd like to invite Pastor John to come back up to give us a state of the church.
All right, thank you, Ian. I am back. And tell you what, I'm going to move in here so you can see that sign behind me, if you will. Friends, those of you here in the room, as well as those of you that are live streaming, I say the obvious. As we talk about the state of the church, this has been a tough year. This has been a challenging year for anybody and everybody. It's been a difficult year, no doubt about that. But I do want to say this here at Bethel, it's also been an inspiring year. An inspiring year, and I hope you catch that. Going back 10 months back in March or April, whenever we started to shut things down here, there, and everywhere, I heard people every once in a while saying, well, the church is closed. The church is closed. Did you hear that? Anybody hear that? Maybe some of you said that. I want to suggest to you, no, the church never closed. And why is that? Because you're the church. We never closed. The buildings were closed. We didn't do services live, but no, the church never closed. The church is alive and well and vital. And I think of, and the pastors will testify to this as well, both Pastors Ladd and Pastor Chris and Pastor Bob, immediately back in March or April, whenever it was when we went to the lockdown, we immediately began to get calls from people like you out there asking, what can I do for help? Or, excuse me, what can I do to help others? This was not a pity party for themselves, poor me. This was, what can I do to help the community? What can I do to help the church? A number of you began to help making masks for people. No, that was extremely helpful. And some of you continue to do that, and please keep it up because that's been an important ministry. A number of you stepped forward to give blood at blood drives, and as you may know, nationally, that is so important. But some of you just gave generously. Some of you began to drop meals off at people's homes. Some of you began to bring food supplies into the food shelf. Some of you began to write inspirational notes and cards, not just to pastors or our staff, but to other neighbors and friends. I tell you this has been an inspirational time. You've shown the church at its very best. And I want to say this, is that you've risen to the challenge of this pandemic. And I would also suggest to you today that our staff has also risen to the challenge. We've tried to be adaptive and creative and innovative these last 10 months. I say the obvious for some of you, but not everybody knows all of what goes on behind the scenes. We began live streaming back in March of 2020. We continued to use WEVR radio to get the 8 o'clock service out. We continued to use Channel 15 on the cable channel to get the word out. And there are a number of people that can do one of these, but not all of them. So each of these venues has been very important. You may remember we also began to do outdoor worship services. We began to do outdoor events and activities. The blessings of the bikes and the blessings of the animals and the blessings of the backpacks. This wasn't just for kids. This was for intergenerational groups. Senior adults, you'll remember we did 3 senior adult luncheons out there in the lawn back when the weather was good. Back in April, the pastors launched what we affectionately know as Hump Day, the Hump Day Thought. And for any of you that are on Facebook, you know that every Wednesday since last April, there's a thought from one of the pastors that goes up for that week. We've done live stream Sunday school, and that's been a real hit, and here's why. Not only do our Sunday school staff do a great job, but listen, we broaden that audience as well. It's not just kids that are tuning into Sunday school anymore. It's whole families. It's senior citizens. That's been a real boom to Bethel. Also, I remind you, we've done Zoom Bible studies, book studies, and meetings as well as a way to keep in touch with people. Talk about taking the roof off and trying something unconventional. That's one more of those ways. Youth ministry has been hard at it. I love this. Back in the spring, youth ministry was doing confirmation classes with, get this, 50 kids a shot on a Zoom call. And then Pastor Ladd or Cindy would break them down into smaller discussion groups. But what a trip that was, trying to do confirmation in that way or form. But again, that's taking the roof off. That's trying something unconventional. I would let you know in these last months, now kids do a Zoom one week, but then they actually arrive live and in person as we are today, socially distanced with masks, and they continue on. Youth events have continued on. Over these last 10 months, Pastor Chris has begun a new ministry called the Befriender Ministry. And as I look around, I can see some of you here in the sanctuary are involved with that. A great and a powerful ministry of connecting people of different ages and different settings in life in our congregation. She's also done a Facebook fellowship corner that I know, again, from looking around, many of you have tuned into as well. We also have done calling campaigns just as a way to reach out, and hopefully by this point, everybody in the congregation hopefully has been called at least once. And for those of you that are 70 and older, you may have been called by we pastors ad nauseum more times than you care to. But the point is, we're trying to keep connections with people. We're trying to keep the ministry alive. Again, I say to you, the church is not closed. The church is alive and well. I mentioned this in my devotional, but last year, back in 2019, when we did all the tabulations for all the services that we do over the course of a year, we think that we had 36,598 people in worship at some point in time. But you know what? Last year in 2020, if all the tabulations that pop up on Facebook and our website and whatever are accurate, last year we had 93,000 people involved with worship, 93,470. Now, truth be told, clarifier here, we don't know, did they stick around for the whole time, or did they just listen to Pastor Ladd's sermon and then bow out, or did they just tune in for New Song? We don't know. But that's a big number, 93,000 people. So again, sometimes when you take the roof off, sometimes when you do the unconventional, sometimes good things can happen that way. I would mention that this past year, our confirmations were up. 65 kids made a profession of their faith through confirmation. Our new members classes did drop. Our baptisms have dropped by about a half. Our weddings have kind of held their own. This is good news here. Listen, believe it or not, our deaths and our funerals have actually dropped. And again, in a year of a pandemic where things could be abysmal, we had 12 funerals last year. The year before, we had 14, and that was a low year. Sadly, we lost one person to COVID, and many of you know Pam Oman. That was too many people to lose. But truth be told, you know there are places that have lost far more than one life or one soul. So we have a lot to be thankful for in where we are at this point in time. I would mention this, that we've learned that we will continue to live stream our services even when the pandemic is behind us at both 8 o'clock and 9:30. And why? Because you've heard our viewing audience or our viewing congregation has multiplied many times. Some of you know this from watching the little margins there. There are times when we have people tuning in to worship from 10, 12 different states around the country. Some of you that go off to the cabin. We had one week where we had somebody from the south of France, and another week where we had somebody from Norway tuning in. So again, it's just wise that we will continue to do that in the future. Now, here's the real question that many of you have asked and many of you are asking. When will we re-enter into these buildings. And your guess is as good as mine, but our hope is that as the vaccine continues to be distributed, and also that our virus continues to drop in terms of the number of people infected, our hope is that we will be back to limited seating at perhaps both campuses in the future. But stay tuned. And again, friends, you know, after 10 months of this, our real commitment is to keep people safe and healthy. The last thing we want to do is offer a spreader event. But we also do want to be thinking about the future and when we can get there. Last but not least, can I lift up the Bethel staff? You've heard me allude to this with not just pastors, but our youth ministry, but really all of our people, our custodians, our facility people, our people in the office, our people that are doing communications. They've done a stellar year to rise to this challenge. And I guess for those of you here, I would just ask that you would give a round of applause to our staff folks. Before I sign off, let me just call your attention to some new team players that we have. This past year, Gwen Cousins came on board. Here's a picture of Gwen. You're going to be hearing from her. She's our new business administrator. It was last year Ralph announced his retirement. Gwen has stepped into that spot. We are so glad to have Gwen with us. Also, Bill Jenkinson stepped out of his spot this last year. Jake Berg, who's back in the control room right now, signed on with us. We are so glad to have Jake. And last but not least, Elise Gerhardt signed out last year. Tammy Huberty signed in as our administrative assistant. There's a picture of Tammy. Tammy, too, does just a wonderful job. All three of these are team players. We couldn't ask for better people. So we applaud them on this day. I say to you again, this could have been a devastating year. This certainly, it was a stressful year, but it could have been a devastating year. But I tell you again, it's been an inspirational year with creativity, with innovation and adaptability. And I tell you, this is proof of God's presence and God's power working in our congregation, working through people like you. So I hope as we leave this gathering a little bit later, we leave as people of hope. I hope that we are people that leave future directed. And I hope that we leave as people that really have a positive challenge be ahead of us. The state of the church, I tell you, the state of the church is strong, it's resilient, and it's moving ahead. And now Ian has some more good news to share with you in the midst of a pandemic. Ian.
Thank you. As John said, 2020 was quite a different year for the church. I'm going to talk a little bit more about the business side of the church and how we performed in 2020. Obviously, the big concern when we stop having in-person worship is, are we going to be able to be successful in having the income come in that we need to? And because of our preparedness and, prior to the pandemic, we already had the capability to do live streaming, online giving, text giving. Because of that, we had those things in place already. We really made the transition without a big hiccup. In 2020, we did see our income a little bit lower than budget, but our expenses also were lower, and we ended the year only about $5,000 below our budget, which puts us in a very strong position going forward into 2021. We also were able to take advantage of the PPP loan that was available to many small businesses, and that was instrumental in preserving our ability to staff our church and our preschool through the spring and summer months. And we've actually settled up with that. All of the funds that we have taken from that have been forgiven, and then all the funds that we didn't have forgiven were returned. So very good news on that front. The benevolence for our church is to increase next year, so it'll help to have continued support. However, I'd like to make a big announcement. It's my pleasure to make this big announcement, and I'd like to have a drum roll here from the audience. Can I have a drum roll? So I'm proud to announce that in 2020, we paid off the church's mortgage. Thank you. Going back to 2007, when we built this very building we're in today, the initial project cost $5.5 million, and Bethel took on a loan of $3.725 million to finance that, which was scheduled over 25 years to be paid off. Well, if you do the math, it's only been about half of that time, and we made some accelerated payments in 2020 to wrap things up. So a very special thank you to all the folks who've been continuing to make payments to our capital fund, even though it's been years since we've had a campaign. And also, towards the end of the year, we had 3 families step up who wish to remain anonymous, who made the final balance, which was just under a couple $100,000. So thank you to everyone who's made that possible. And it's a very positive thing and an exciting moment for the church to have our debt completely gone as we look forward to what this congregation needs going into the future. So thank you very much. The state of the church is strong. We hope you continue to support us in the years coming. And with that, I'm going to pass it to Kelly Carrier.
Thank you, Ian, especially for that wonderful news that the loan is paid off. Hallelujah. As Ian said, I'm Kelly Carrier. I'm here representing the Church Council as a past president of the council to introduce you to the new incoming candidates for this year. As I say their name and give you a little bit of background on them, you'll see their pictures up on the screen, and hopefully as we get back in person, you will get to know each of them personally. The first person I'd like to introduce is Dan Roglin. He's been a member of Bethel since 2015, and he has helped in a variety of different positions around the church. He served as an usher, a scripture reader, and has assisted with communion, along with helping to decorate the sanctuaries for Christmas. So welcome, Dan. Next is Susan Richards and her family. They've been members since 2016, and she has served as a confirmation leader, helped with ski trips and youth events, has been an usher, and has also participated in women's Bible studies. So welcome, Susan. Next, we have Marshall Agri. Him and his family have been members at Bethel since 2013, and he has served on the 2020 Planning Committee, along with helping at the annual celebration and assisted with our Christmas services. So thank you and welcome. Next, we have Lori Head, who has been a member of Bethel since 2019. She's been involved with a book study and has contributed to a number of our supply raising efforts around here at Bethel. So welcome, Lori. And then finally, we have John Hilding. Him and his family joined Bethel in 1992. He was involved with a number of youth ministry positions over the years, and then more recently, he's been involved with adult education, attending classes, and co-leading a Bible study. So thank you and welcome to Church Council. We are so thankful for these gifted individuals and their willingness to serve. We really couldn't do the work that we do around church without them stepping forward. So thank you so much, and please join me in welcoming them.
Before we vote on our new council candidates, kind of to reiterate how we're going to be doing our voting today, we have our Survey Monkey available and then our call-in booth as well to do our votes. But before we do that, though, we're also going to have Gwen share the 2021 proposed budget, and then we'll begin voting on all of the items at once. Gwen?
Hi there, and good afternoon. I'm Gwen Costin, your business administrator, and we have some time to look through the 2021 budget found on page 18 of your annual report. What a beautiful job Mary did. I'll provide some information about Bethel's proposed 2021 budget, and we'll end with a motion to formally have you approve it. So at this time, if you could turn to page 18 of your annual report, you'll find that the second column from the right shows Bethel's proposed 2021 general fund budget. All right. While taking a peek at that, we're also going to look at some of the highlights here on this summary screen. And you can see that we project that 2021 general fund gifts will total $1.4589 million. And that includes both your weekly and seasonal offerings, not program income. This is a projection to be up by about 4.5% over our last very unusual 2020. We expect expenses to increase at a slower rate than our offerings, but based on those projections, we expect to be able to finish the 2021 calendar year with a balanced budget. So looking at specific components, you can see the pastor's compensation is following the Northwest Synod guidelines. And for staff, we're projecting an overall modest average salary increase of 2%. And we can do that because overall, the total staff compensation is actually projected to decrease about 3% due to staffing changes and different scheduling as compared to last year for a variety of reasons. A big thank you to those of you that made a pledge for 2021. The 255 pledges for this year reflect an increase of 3% over last year, or $30,000 more dollars, which is very encouraging and increases our confidence that this budget can be met. As we look at the overall expenses, we continue to expect that strong giving to others category will be in excess of 10% of our general fund expenses. And as we want to be a giving church, it allows us to help those that are less fortunate. So that is a wonderful ability that this church has. Katie will review those benevolence details later on in the celebration, but I'd like you to see exactly where all those dollars go to. As we've shown in past years, this slide's an estimate of your overall gifts spent by area of ministry, and I encourage you to look at the slide in more detail. It can also be found at the bottom of page 19 in your annual report. That's really all I have to share on this. Before I make a motion to approve the 2021 budget, let's take a moment to continue live so I can better answer your questions. Then I will turn the presentation over to Ian, who will continue with the motion to approve the 2021 general fund budget of Bethel Lutheran Church as outlined on page 18 of the annual report. Again, I'm so thankful to present this good news and to provide the following to those serving Bethel, and I'm glad to serve with them.
So thank you, Gwen, for sharing the 2021 proposed budget. I'm going to ask any folks if they have any questions or comments on the budget, please submit them through our chat feature or call in to the numbers that were presented earlier for our phone vote. We do have Ralph available to answer any questions on the budget should we get any as you make your votes. I'm going to introduce and invite Jamie Johnson to come up and give us an update on our building committee.
Thank you, Ian. Yes, I'm Jamie Johnson, and my wife and I, Jean, have been members here at Bethel for about 25 years, I guess. And I've been appointed on the Bethel Construction Progress Committee, and our report is on page 11 in the annual report brochure. I'm not going to read the report, but I want to start by thanking the people that serve on that committee with me. Their names are in there. Special thanks to Dawn Arnovic, who serves as the vice president, and Tim Rutten, who's been our secretary. I appreciate their leadership and writing abilities. 2020 was a year of transition for in our facilities, and it's kind of like what goes around comes around, because there were several of us in this room, but a small number compared to those that are here that were involved before this land that we're now standing on and sitting on even was in Bethel's name, and that was a little over 20 years ago. And now we have this great news that that mortgage is paid off in about half the time. So it's that similar commitment to a long-term vision, to a commitment to getting buy-in from all members of our congregation that, we've been meeting for a couple years now. We started as a Bethel Facilities Task Force, which was born out of the Vision 2020, which was the long-term view of the church and where we're going. And so from all those surveys that we did, it was about a year ago that we did the survey and determined that, you know, we had huge support for adding on to our educational wing, as well as renovating the sanctuary and our hospitality area. And so we hired an architect to help us with that plan, the schematic plan, and also started on a budget. And Paul Gavick has been helping with that in all of his experience. And we met several times, but despite the pandemic, we continue to have the optimism that the Lord's going to lead us through this, and someday we'll be in a position to be able to do this. Just unfortunately, with the rising numbers this fall, we opted to put things kind of on hold and saw the practical need for that, because we were getting to the point where we needed to engage our congregation, and it's just hard to do by Zoom. It's really hard to do virtually. So we want to be able to meet in small groups and large groups, just like we did 20 years ago when we made the decision to buy this property and made the decision to build on it. We want to have that similar opportunity to answer your questions and so forth. So we're not likely to resume meeting as a committee regularly until we've resumed meeting in-person services, and also gauge kind of what's happening at the preschool level as well, because we know in another capacity I serve on our school board here in Hudson School District, and you know we're down a few students, some who have opted to go virtually and so forth. So we just want to see, what is the fall going to hold for our school district? What will it hold for our congregation? So with that, I would take questions. Our email addresses, mine and Dawn's, and of course you can always contact Pastor John if you have questions about where we're going with the building progress. We want to be able to build on those surveys that we did, engage that enthusiasm that was there, and I still feel will be there once we're able to meet again in person. But with that, I want to thank you for your support and continued prayers for the vision of where we're going with Bethel. Thank you.
Thank you, Jamie. If you haven't already, we are carrying on with voting. So again, please take the time to complete the Survey Monkey or call in. We'll be continuing to take ballots for a few minutes while we continue to conduct business here. Next, I'd like to invite Ann Wasman to come up for an endowment fund update.
Good afternoon. My name is Ann Wasmond, and I'm a member of the Bethel Endowment Fund Committee. My fellow committee members include Tim Dice, Ron Johnson, Kim Evers, Jean Johnson, and Pastor John Lestock. The Endowment Committee's purpose is to fulfill the mission of Bethel by educating the congregation on how they can support this ministry, assisting donors in their giving, collection and review of grant requests, and through administering the fund procedures of the Bethel Endowment Funds. Bethel partners with In Faith Community Foundation to manage the funds. The funds are divided into two categories: the Outreach Fund that supports those in need outside of the Bethel Church, and the General Fund that supports those inside the Bethel community. At the end of Q3 2019, the General Fund balance was $201,884. Q3 2020, the balance stood at $208,396, for an increase of $6,512. At the end of Q3 2019, the Outreach Fund balance was $44,853. Q3 2020, the balance was $43,874, a decrease of $979. This resulted in a net change in balance of $5,533. In 2020, we had the great pleasure of awarding 11 grants totaling $11,890. And you may note this is a higher amount than the net principal growth of the funds from Q3 2019 to 2020. However, it's important to mention that we always reference the 10-year average return when arriving at the total amount of grant money available. We also knew the needs of the community would be greater, And in the absence of the Scandinavian Food Fest in 2020, many grant recipients were likely limited in the funds available to them. Our decisions were further supported by a healthy jump from Q3 to Q4 in 2020, and as a result, the funds reflect a net gain of $10,206 after grant distribution. So certainly a celebration. Grant monies went to help fund the Hudson Area Backpack Program, Operation Help, special guest musicians, Bethel Highlands Preschool, Bethel Video Accessories, the Bethel Summer Youth Intern, a seminary scholarship, Global Missions, the Befriender Ministry, Our Neighbor's Place, and also supporting maintenance of the Bethel van. A brochure that outlines how the funds work and how you can help support this wonderful ministry in your giving, will, or estate planning is available at the welcome desk or at the church office. And of course, any of our committee members would be happy to speak with you as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Ann. Next, we have a note on our benevolent giving from 2020 from Katie Clymer. Please come on up.
Good afternoon. I'm Katie Clymer, a member of Bethel's Church Council, and I want to share some great news with you on Bethel's benevolent giving for 2020. Please turn to page 19 in your annual report for the listing of all benevolence giving Bethel made to organizations, other ministries, and individuals. You will note we gave away a total of $169,314 in 2020, which was 10.5% of our general fund expenses. This was higher than our original budget for benevolence giving of 9.5% in 2020 and was $20,000 more than we were able to give in 2019. These gifts went out locally, regionally, nationally, and globally. In a year like 2020, it would have been easy to cut back on our generosity and have played it safe. But we knew the needs were great and other ministries were hurting and needed financial support, just as we did. As you can see on the slide, we hope to increase our benevolence giving to 10.7% of our overall budget in 2021. We want to thank you for your generosity and faithfulness that made this giving in 2020 possible. And we hope you are proud to be part of a giving church that reaches out to others. If you have any questions or concerns, please do not hesitate to contact me, Gwen Cosson, or Pastor John. Thank you.
Thank you, Katie. Up next, I'd like to invite Carrie Jo Foray to come give an update on the Bethel Highlands Preschool.
Hello, I'm Carrie Jo Foray. I'm the director at Bethel Highlands Preschool. I have a question for you. How many of you have ever tried to keep a group of 3-year-olds from getting within 6 feet of each other? Right? We've had our challenges cut out for us this year. So I'm just going to kind of focus, I guess, on the last 10 months. I have a lot of details in my annual report, within the annual report, so I'll direct you to that for some more details. But I do have a few pictures just to give you a glimpse of what's happening in our classrooms as we make modifications to continue preschool. Every day from September 1st, we have been in operation. So we are so thankful that we've been able to do that. Other than the 2 days we had to close down because the water heater went out, which I never imagined would be part of our pandemic plan, but we recovered just fine. So we are grateful to be in person, and I'll have Jake start a couple pictures so I can tell you about what we're doing. This is a home classroom. We've got, of our 118 students, 10 of them are virtual learners. So this is what it looks like while they're watching their teacher on TV at home. We have plexiglass dividers in the classrooms that our facilities team has made, and we are grateful to have that option. So in our classrooms, the kids do wear masks for our 4K. For our private, really little kids, they're able to take their masks off once they get into the classroom. And we have tried to keep each of our groups completely separate. I shouldn't say we've tried to. We've successfully done it. We've kept each of our class groups completely separate from other class groups so that if we have to quarantine anybody or if there is a positive case, we're able to easily track where those kids have been. Trick-or-treating took place outside. It was pretty cold, but we were very grateful to have Pastor Ladd and Matt out there to help pass out treats. The kids didn't notice, because as you know, costumes are multi-layers anyway, so they were ready to go. The kids missed their friends. So even though they are with their group of 10 to 13 kids, typically we're gathering on the playground, we're gathering in specials, and we're getting to see one another. So I just thought this was kind of a important picture as they're looking out on the playground while their friends are playing, kind of wishing they could be together. And they will. Chapel time, we've figured out creative ways to do that. So we had, while the weather was nice, we were able to do chapel time outdoors. Here's another picture of how those plexiglass dividers are used in the preschool rooms. And the Play-Doh and things that are high-touch items, we've had the kids bring for their own little tubs to use, so we're not sharing those things. Here's a picture of our indoor chapel time. We do one class at a time coming in for chapel, which means that Pastor Ladd has to do chapel 11 times within 3 days.
Thank you, Jesus.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's a meaningful time for the kids. Here's a picture of one of our 4K classrooms doing their virtual time. So the teacher has students in person and students on the TV that are participating. It's a difficult thing to balance, and something that none of these teachers at our level or K through 12, that wasn't part of our curriculum when we were in college getting our teacher degrees, right? So we've all adjusted very quickly to figure out how to make that work, how to manage behaviors in front of us and on the screen, and make sure that the content is still engaging and that they're learning. That's our Thanksgiving feast. So our Thanksgiving gathering and our big special events through the year, which the families really look forward to, have all changed, as you can imagine. But we have found a way to still make it really special, really meaningful. And so we still did the video montage for the kiddos at our Thanksgiving gathering, and it was still a really special day. And this is the team. So within all of these daily interactions, this is the group of ladies that makes it work. They are showing up every day, unless they're quarantined, which has not happened very often. So we're thankful for that too. But they are here, and they are consistent, and they are loving to their students. And we know from research that in the midst of trauma and chaos for children, the thing that makes the difference is consistency in the caregivers, right? So we've got these ladies who every day are providing loving, consistent, solid, safe spaces for these kids. So even though you may not be able to see what's happening underneath that mask, which was a concern right from the start, how are these kids going to know social emotional skills when they can't see our faces? We know that there are hundreds of other ways we're communicating beyond what's behind our mask. Eyebrows, right? Hands, body movements, so many different ways that we're communicating, and so many ways that this team is communicating to children that they're loved and that they're safe and that we're here every day. So thanks to that group of amazing teachers. Just a couple other things that we've added. We've added a lot of materials this year in order to keep all of our groups completely separate. All of our classrooms have some new books, such as What is Social Distancing and Hand Washing. So we've added some resources, added some materials. Our expenses have increased a bit this year. Tuition income is a bit lower. So I have some details in the annual report, but we have been very, very blessed to have generous donors, to have your support, and we've had a couple of very successful fundraisers already this year too. So lots to be thankful for in the midst of it all. And a special thank you to our board of directors that really have, over the summer, spent dozens of hours. They're a volunteer board. Spent dozens and dozens of hours trying to figure out how we could operate safely, knowing that this is an essential service for many families who need childcare. So thank you to our board of directors and their expertise and their hard work. And thank you to our facilities team, to our teachers, to you guys, to our families who continue to trust us every day that we are providing that safe place for their kids. So thank you.
Well, real quick, Carrie Jo, before you go, We owe you a humongous thank you. As some of you know, if you don't know, Carrie Jo is going to be stepping down from her position at the end of the year. And Carrie Jo is the one that actually created our program here. So she's been here, I would say 13 years, but it's probably been like hour-wise, like 24 years in a normal teacher's, administrator's career. And we owe you a humongous thank you. And her willingness to stay on this year, I cannot thank God enough, because I'd have hate to put a new person in the midst of COVID. And Carrie Jo has run this program through the years, and especially this year, so well with all the extra stuff that's going on. And so we just owe her a humongous thanks. There are big shoes to fill, but she's been so thankful for that. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carrie Jo and Ladd. As we wrap up and conclude voting here, we're going to share a video montage from 2020, share some of our highlights. Even though we haven't had as much in-person contact, we do have some highlights we'd like to share. I would like to warn you, though, we're going to close voting at the end of the video. So please go ahead and get any vote in now if you want to have your vote counted for all the motions we've got pending. Wonderful. As you may know, the council president's last official duty is to run the annual meeting here. And I'd like to introduce our incoming council president, Jeff Mackey, to bid a farewell to everyone who's leaving council this year.
Very good. Thanks, Ian. Really appreciate the introduction. Again, I'm Jeff Mackey. My wife and I, Sonia, have been members, long-term members of Bethel for many years. And good afternoon to everybody out in the audience. As the incoming president of our church council, I want to recognize the outgoing members of our council that have served 3-year terms, which is very significant. Before I read off their names, I personally want to say thank you to each and every one of them. It's been my pleasure to work with them over the last couple to 3 years and to learn a bit about them, and above all, to learn a little bit about what it takes to run our church through the committees that they ended up supporting. You helped me grow an appreciation for all that you do and what it takes to keep our congregation spiritually strong and vibrant. So thank you. In addition, I'd like to say a big thanks to the entire council and staff in 2020. Who would have thought that we'd be doing everything virtually? Speaking for the council and the staff, the discussion and the decisions made regarding what we have gone through this past year of the pandemic is probably the most significant area of pride and accomplishment that we've done. Our ability to quickly pivot to online everything has been the key to sustaining our mission at our church during this time and has truly impacted our ability to continue to connect, grow, and serve in our community, as you can see all of the things that we've done in the annual report that's in front of you. If there's a positive to be taken out of COVID, and I think you always have to look for that shining light, is that going online worship has extended our reach farther than we've ever reached before. So all I can say is, well done. Now, here are the 5 people that have put their service in. The first, of course, you've met and you've heard from him today, is Ian Isaacson. Ian's right behind me. Ian has been our president for the last year, and I'm certain that when he signed up to be president and got voted in, he had no idea what kind of year was in front of him. So it just gives you an idea of what I'm stepping into as well. It's quite eye-opening as you can see what can happen and what you're going to do to continue to connect, serve, and grow. You know, when you take a look at, he also was prior to that big part of the building committee, and helped us out in coming to some decisions and working with architects and some of the folks that were there too. So, Ian, I'm not sure that we're going to let you get too far away from us as we start to regroup. The second person is Shane Strack. Shane's out. Is he here? Yes, he is. Shane has been in service to us for the last 2 to 3 years as well. And I heard just glowing reports. He served on the audit committee for us this last year, and again, helped us out. And then he was also a member of the 2021 annual celebration planning. So Shane's done a really nice job in putting all that together. And I heard rumors, Shane, that through the committee that you served on, they're really kind of hoping that you'll continue to work with them as we go forward. So I mean, the job is never quite done. So thanks, Shane. The next person I have on the list is Marty O'Ion, and Marty is with us today as well, and it's been a pleasure to serve with Marty on the council, and I know that Marty has added quite a bit of expertise from his job and his experience and what he's done in the past, and he's brought it to our church, and he's worked on our HR committee. So he was a big part of putting together kind of the staff performance reviews. And also, you could see that we did some hiring this year. So the interviewing and the questioning and all of those kinds of things, Marty was a big part of that. So again, thank you so much, Marty. The next person I've got on my list is Jean Johnson. You heard from her husband earlier. He was up here. Jean has been a part, and you heard a little bit about the committee that she was a part of. She's been part of the endowment committee. And I'm sure just like Jean enriched all of our lives on the church council, she enriched all of the lives on the committee for the endowment as well. And we really appreciate having her experience and guidance as we've gone through a lot of the decisions that we've made this past year. So thank you, Jean. And then next on the list is Katie Clymer. Katie, thank you so much for all of the work that you've done. We saw you earlier, as you were making the report out on some of the things. And Katie's been an active representative for the Bethel Highlands preschool, and she's served as the preschool board of directors treasurer for the last 3.5 years as well. So again, we've got a lot of expertise that has come to us. Thank you, Katie. So with that, each of these people brought a wealth of expertise and experience to the council. A big round of applause and a heartfelt thanks to all of you. And I did want to mention that, there's no pressure here or anything like that. But I know the committees that you've all been a part of, they would love to have you continue on into the future as well. So thank you very much. I'm going to turn it back over to Ian at this point in time.
Thank you, Jeff. We should have our drawing coming up next. And as a reminder for folks who are always looking for ways to get involved in the church, you should inquire about our committees that are an important part of our ministry here that all report up to the church council and help provide various services to our organization to help us run smoothly. Shane's going to announce our winners of our drawing.
This is for San Pedro.
All right, so our first drawing is for San Pedro, and the winner is Lori Deese. Laura Deese, yep. Congratulations. The second one is for Dairy Queen. Jean Johnson. The next one is for Kanokis. Charlotte Lee. Then we've got one from Culver's. And the winner is Ron Keller. Yep. And last but not least, we've got Pure 500. The winner is Joan Sheffen. So congratulations to all 5 of you winners, and Julie will be reaching out to you to kind of get the card to you, except for Jean. We know where you are, Jean. All right, thank you.
All right, we have our final results tabulated from our items we voted on. There's 6 items, so I'll read through each one individually. On admitting Marshall Agri to the church council, we have a total of 201 yes votes, so he will be admitted. Lori Head, also with 201 votes. John Hilding with 200 votes. Susan Richards with 204 votes. And Dan Roglin with 200 votes. Congratulations to our new church council members. Can I have you all come and stand up here in front if you are here? Yeah, come right on up. I know we don't have Marshall with us today, but welcome to a church council. You've all been voted in. And thank you very much for volunteering to serve. I can ask you to take a seat again. So to everyone watching, reminder, our church council members serve a 3-year term, and we rotate a few spots out each year so we can continue to get new faces on our leadership each year. Finally, our annual budget passed with a vote of 203 to 1. So that is also a tremendous success. Thank you for voting. We're all very impressed with the number of people who were able to participate, probably more so than we have in the past with an in-person annual celebration. So thank you again. As we close here, I'd like to... Yes, we'd like to have our new song.
No, just me and Skip. But
Oh, yeah, just Skip and Tracy. My apologies. I'm looking, there's less people there. Let's all stand and sing.
Beautiful Savior, King of creation, Son of God and Son of Man. Truly I'd love Thee, truly I'd serve Thee. Light of my soul, my joy, my crown. Fair are the meadows, fair are the woodlands, robed in flowers of blooming spring. Jesus is fairer, Jesus is purer. He makes our sorrowing spirit sing. Fair is the sunshine, fair is the moonlight, bright the sparkling stars on high. Jesus shines brighter, Jesus shines purer than all the angels in the sky. Beautiful Savior, Lord of the nations, Son of God and Son of Man. Glory and honor, praise, adoration, now and forevermore be thine.
Thank you for the beautiful music, Skip and Tracy. That was great. Well, it's time to bring our meeting to a close. And I've got the closing prayer for us, so let's bow our heads and pray with me, please. God, who has called us here together, we have sung, we have prayed, and we have listened for your challenge. We have met, we have talked, we have shared, and we have made decisions. As we move forward into another year and go back into our community, fill our hearts with hope. Help us share our light with everyone. Help us to live up to the goals we have set for connecting, growing, and serving, so we can gather again next year to talk through some of the good things that have happened, the challenges in front of us, and new plans for years to come. This has been a challenging year for all of us, Lord. The pandemic and divisive politics has led us down many new paths, some good, some not so much. Thanks for your guidance, stirring our hearts and minds as we work in reconciliation to show love, dignity, and respect as we live and serve others as you did. On a personal note for all of us during this time of COVID, continue to help and protect the doctors and healthcare providers. Put your hand on all of us to have the patience to protect others, ourselves, and for healing that is yet to come. Our time together is coming to a close. Thanks again for what has been accomplished here today. Bring us to a place of stillness where we can listen to you, take the plans laid out here today, and help each of us grow in our lives, knowing that you will lead all of us forward. In your name we pray. Amen. And now I would look for a motion to adjourn the meeting. We've got a motion to close. Is there a second? And a second by Marty. The meeting is now officially closed. I would like to say a big thanks to the Celebration Committee that put this together and put all the planning into what we've done. This has been quite different than what we've done in the past. So a big thank you to all of them. And remember, dream big, sparkle more, and shine bright. Thank you so much for joining today.
By the way, I appreciate you putting a note in there, don't sign up for too many of them, because I know that. Because sometimes I don't see the notes right away. I don't know why. Sometimes the note will go to my junk file or go to my regular mail, so I don't get it right. But I so appreciate signing up, because I'd like to do that at least once every 2 months. Hi, pal. Yep, how are you? I'm excellent. How are you? Yeah, exactly. Thanks for playing today. How's your wife? Wife? sons, grandchildren, we're taking care of them. Look at all these weeks. Good for you. You bet. Have a great day. Yeah, thank you. Good. Great job. Great work. Oh, thanks. You did right there. You did what? You got Thanks for your service. Yeah, you did a good hit some great points there.
Hello, how are you?
Good to hear you singing in person.
I know.
That's great.
It wasn't Memorex.
I saw
Live or
you
Memorex?
in Kelton this morning.
No, it's fun. See ya.
See you. Bye. How are you?